Hello. Today I want to talk about something else that is near and dear to my heart. I've always really been into history, and it has always been a great source of inspiration for me. No, I don't have any formal education. I am just a consumer of many sources. I would say I'm a history buff, but like the professionals in the field definitely know way more than I do. And I would never act like I have that level of knowledge in any way, shape, or form. I'm also not doing any kind of research, not even as a hobby, but I know some people will do, and they are awesome. I am, as I stated, a consumer of many sources, and one of my favorite sources is the great Dan Carlin. I think many people know him by now. He is an American history podcaster, rose to fame and fortune, rightfully earned through his Hardcore History podcast series. I mentioned it in an earlier video when I was swooning about Wrath of the Khans, his favorite series that he made. It is about Genghis Khan, his rise to power, and the forming and reign of the Mongol Empire. His whole catalog is nothing short but amazing. Check it all out. But I want to give you another specific recommendation from his Hardcore History series. It is called King of Kings, and it's about the ancient Persians, how they rose to power and then finally got conquered by Alexander the Great. I recommend it because me as a European have, of course, I have a Western-centric worldview. That's just the way I was educated in school, and this is how information is laid out to you. I don't mean it in a bad or demeaning way, but there are not, when we look into ancient history, we look at the Greeks and the Romans, but not so much into the Persians. And this was another blind spot for me that got thoroughly explored by King of Kings. Definitely broadened my horizon. Something else that I would also definitely recommend to you, but with that I'm very green, I just started, is to look into ancient China. I'm gonna butcher those names. It is the Xia, Shang, and Zhou dynasties, basically everything before the Qin dynasty. For those people who know what I'm talking about, it's fascinating stuff to see how they formed their culture, how they developed their distinct way of writing and whatnot. And me as a horse nomad fan, I had a good chuckle to see where like the ancient rivalry and the trouble started, even in those ancient days. So I'm really excited to dive deeper into that. Furthermore, cultures that are quite prominent, I say it all from a very much a pop culture perspective, how certain themes and visuals are explored, especially like in fantasy, but not just in fantasy, are of course Aztecs and Mayans, two very distinct cultures that are separated by centuries, but yeah, they often get lumped together. They are of course related in one way or another. History experts, please don't scold me for what I just said, but I think you know what I mean. I'm fascinated, of course, by the visuals, and when I say visuals, I mean obsidian swords, stone pyramids, jade piercings and stuff like that. But I want to go a little bit deeper. It's about their religion and their view of the cosmos. That's some crazy, trippy, and very inspiring stuff. I could go more into detail, but I want to keep this video a little bit on the shorter side. Furthermore, I would really recommend to look into ancient Sumer, the ancient high culture that we know of, that also produced the oldest piece of literature that we know of, the Gilgamesh epos that I that I mentioned it also in a different video that I made a little bit earlier. It's so mystical, it's so ancient, I could go into so many more details, so please explore it for yourself. But one more thing about the Gilgamesh epos, again, the oldest piece of literature that we have, and it is so fleshed out and it goes so deep into the human condition. It's crazy, it's almost scary. And I think I remember it right, I think the first verse of the Gilgamesh epos is already in those ancient days, which implies that this is sort of the newer version of something that's way older. Like, man, that's just fodder for inspiration. Really gets me excited just talking about it. Furthermore, one last thing, if we look at classic ancient cultures, again from a Western and I would say pop culture perspective, we would think about the Romans, the Greeks, and the Egyptians, and you could say, hey, that's kind of down to death, or I've seen a lot of surface level stuff and it doesn't really do anything for me. Hey, that's totally a perfect opinion to have, fine and dandy, but I can just advise you to look deeper into it, because Greeks, Romans, and Egyptians cover millennia of cultural development. And when you say, hey, Romans they're not really interesting to me, about what Romans are you even talking about? Like imperial Romans or republican Romans, or the founding day Romans when it was just a city-state? Same for the Greeks, like their proto-city-states and everything that came later, and starting with the Egyptians, like their culture is long and diverse. Man, there's so much to explore. So to make a long story short, even if you think something is kind of boring or down to death, especially with such long-lasting cultures, give it a second look and just dive into a specific dynasty or whatever. There are so many stories to tell and so much inspiration to take. Yeah. I hope my excitement, my passion for history as a source of inspiration for your creative endeavors, and especially when they tie into TRPGs, is a little bit infectious to you. I will keep on talking about it. And yeah, what do you think about my opinion? Am I right? Are my examples stale and boring, or did it inspire you to look them up for yourself? So please let me know, and see you in the next video.